And welcome to the daily cyber briefing for Friday, the 21st of April. I'm Stephen Ridgway. VMware has fixed two important flaws in the VMware ARIA operations for logs product. These are being tracked as CVE 2023-20864 and 2023-20865. 20864 has got a CVSS score of 9.8 and 208 20865 has got a score of 7.2. Both are being actively exploited at the moment, so look to apply patches if you are running VMware ARIA operations for logs. Interesting article I saw in Bleeping Computer. There is, in fact, in this case, an uptick in attackers using an abandoned WordPress plugin in order to backdoor websites. So the plugin in question is Eval PHP, which is an outdated but legitimate WordPress plugin. It looks like it hasn't had any updates for about a decade. However, it is still available through the WordPress plugins repository. Unsurprisingly, given that it has had no development for such a long time, it is vulnerable to all sorts of attacks. So, well, okay, what can you do? Well, you can't patch it because nobody's taking any care of it. What I've got to, in fact, I know it is difficult to keep on top of WordPress plugins, unless that is a core part of what you do. If you are a web admin, you're running WordPress, and your job is to make sure this stuff is all okay, then you're probably going to be all right. But WordPress crops up in loads of places. You can get spin up a WordPress website on and GoDaddy or whoever, which is all well and good. But if you don't actually know what you're doing with the plugins, it is quite possible that you'll end up with plugins on your site that you weren't actually aware were there. And whether or not those are actually getting updated or not is a little bit iffy. You can set plugins to automatically update, but in my experience or our experience, sometimes plugins need to be manually nudged in order for them to update. Seems to be if there's some question around whether it would make certain sorts of changes to the functionality of the site or the look and feel of the site, automatic plugin updates get held back. So it is entirely possible that there are plugins in your websites that you're not aware of or may not have been kept up to date in quite the way that you'd expected. The only thing you can really do is periodically go through your website and make sure that everything is up to date. However, if you find yourself with 10-year-old plugins, got to ask the question: do you really still need them? Because the obvious thing to do with something like this is just remove it, just switch it off. However, if you find that you have got web apps that are relying on this sort of stuff, generally referred to as abandonware, then something has gone wrong in your web app development pipeline, I would suggest. So yeah, have a look for this one. It is under attack at the moment. Noticeable uptick. If you find you've got eval PHP on your site, remove it because it is insecure. An interesting article I saw from Dark Reading, that there is a bug in how Google Cloud Platform handles OAuth tokens that has allowed Trojan apps to access anything in the user's personal or business, Google Drives, Photos, Gmail, any of the components. The particular bug is dubbed Ghost Token, and the analysis has been released by Asterisk security researchers. It looks to be very interesting. So I'm not going to claim I completely understand how the token authentication, token-based authentication works in the background in Google. But as you might have spotted, if you logged into one of your Google apps, you'll be logged into a whole load of others. So if you're logged into Gmail, you don't have to log in again to whatever. So there is some like some sharing of information there, and that information must then also be shared with any apps that you allow to any third-party plugin type things that you allow to interact with your Google apps. This particular malicious app makes use of the vulnerability, which allows it access to all your emails, all your data, or whatever. However, it then, once downloaded, hides itself from the victim's Google account application management page. So from the user perspective, it basically disappears. Since the only place that you as a user can manage applications and revoke access, this particular exploit means once you've installed this third-party app, you can't get rid of it. So that's a very interesting one. I would recommend that you have a read of this particular article if you are running things in GCP, and you may want to consider some controls around which additional apps users are permitted to install for themselves. There are patches available, I believe, so this is now known and understood, and there are also, I think there is mention of a potential mitigation to this as well, but it is one to be aware of, and again, it raises this question around how much you are reliant on your cloud providers doing a good job in security, because so much of it is not it's out of your hands. You're not under control of it. So yeah, I thought that was a very interesting one, and certainly deserves a read. Finally, another article from Dark Reading. Twitter's 2FA policy chaos has hit. So Twitter recently have actually now disabled SMS-based two-factor authentication for users who are not Twitter Blue subscribers. There are alternative 2FA solutions out there, and let's be honest, SMS-based is not the strongest of 2FA solutions anyway. However, it is better than not having 2FA. So right now, if you used to have 2FA and you're not a Twitter subscriber, if you're not paying Twitter for your blue whatever, you'll have reverted back to single factor username and password authentication. I think I can absolutely see why that Twitter has done this. If they're sending SMS text messages out with authentication codes, somebody somewhere is paying for that. And my guess is it's just come out of Twitter's bottom line in the end. So cost saving for Twitter, completely agree. Makes a lot of sense. However, the other side of it is, though, if you make your platform less secure, are you going to then lose customers? Are you going to find yourself wrapped up in more issues than if you hadn't done it? Why not make some of the other authentication systems easier to implement within Twitter as an alternative? So I don't know. I think I can see the commercial reason for stopping sending out blanket 2FA SMSs, but I can't see the reasoning behind just switching it off rather than doing something else instead. And I think it reflects poorly on Twitter, either Twitter's understanding of security or perhaps possibly Twitter's interest in the security of the people that use the platform. Don't know. So there you are. It's happened. We talked about it before when it was on the "it's going to happen" list. We're now there. So recommend if you are not prepared to pay Elon, was it whatever, a $5 or something to get your blue bird thing? Is it? I don't know. Who cares? If you're not prepared to pay, then you're going to have to either make sure you're on top of your passwords. So long complex passwords, regularly changed, managed through password manager would be a recommendation. Keep an eye on any Twitter breaches where that your password may have been exposed. Even if it is a long or complex password, that doesn't mean it's impossible to break it. And also, absolute golden rule: don't reuse passwords between accounts. Use a separate password for every account. All your social media, all your banking, you name it. Don't reuse passwords, and that would be a very strong recommendation from me. So I think that is all for today. I hope you are having a good week. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will speak to you all again on Monday.